Hey everybody, I'm in the West Coast Saw warehouse where we ship all of our stuff out of today. And I want to be starting this chain series. I want to go over a lot of different stuff about chain. I feel like there's a lot of information out there that hasn't been talked about yet, or breaking down the cost of chain, how to make a chain. There's been several filing videos and stuff. I might do some grinding videos and everything like that, but I'm gonna start doing more videos on chain and stuff. So I'm gonna do this video first as far as how to make a chain, and then I'm gonna break down what the cost is as far as buying a full 100-foot roll and then making your own loops compared to buying a loop off the retail store. So this is the chain that we have in stock. There's quite a bit of it, and these are all the rolls, and each of these are 100-foot rolls. And you know, there's tons of things to go over on chain. I don't even know where to start. It's like a big rabbit hole, but we can just break it down one video at a time. And today I'll be in the warehouse here with Russ. We're gonna get the chain table set up and make some chains, and we'll kind of go over some problems that happens when you make chains, the do's and don'ts, stuff that we've had to learn along the way that might help you out if you're gonna decide to make your own chain. So this here is our chain making table. Russ built this a while ago, and by no means do you ever need to make something this crazy, but we made it for the store here, and this is how we do it and how we got it set up. I'll kind of show you how it's set up, and then if you're making one on your bench or whatever, you might get some ideas on how you want to do it or whatever, but it's pretty much basic. You got your chain breaker here and your chain spinners here. This is your roll of chain, and then we pull our roll from here all the way down, and we hook the chain there, and then we pull the chain to whatever number we want to break it at. So if you're going to make a chain and you're going to do 93, which would be a Husqvarna 28-inch bar, that mark right there is where you would grab the chain, flick it off of the pin, and then Russ breaks it, and then he'll spin the chain over here. And we're gonna go over all this, but this is just the way that we have it set up. When we went to Oregon and we went through their factory, they actually had their roll here, and their breaker was this side of it, and they kind of pulled the chain across. So there's all different configurations that you can do. This is just what Russ and I chose to do. When Russ breaks his chain, you know, he's got, you know, leftover parts. He just throws them down there into that hole, and he built a little tray under there that he can empty out, which was kind of cool. He came up with that, and then we have the extra rolls that he uses down here. And then Russ also has everything in his little organizers here, his breaker tips, and I'm going to give you guys all the part numbers of stuff that we use. So everything's going to be broken down, but he's got all of his rivets, everything. So these are called a chain scale, and you don't have to have these actually to make a chain. This is just for a bench if you're going to do a lot of these chains over and over, but you can actually, you know, count drivers. That's one way of doing it without a chain scale. These chain scales are really handy once you get them set up, and they have all the information on them of how to break it down. It breaks down everything for you. But when you set your bench up, you just measure from here over to where you're going to put a nail or whatever into your bench. It's usually 2 feet or 23 3/4, depending on what chain. We're actually going to have to change our pins because they're not perfect. So when you pull one, the chain doesn't perfectly line up over the top of the deal. It might be off like that much, but once you get the pins all set in the correct spot, it will line up right over the top of this. So when you're gonna break chains, there's 5 parts to a chain. There is a right tooth, a left tooth, your strap, your pin, and your driver. So there's always 5 parts to a chain, and that's what makes up a chain. So when you look at a chain, you can totally understand it. And when they say gauge, the gauge is the thickness of the driver that fits into the groove of the bar. And on the Oregon chains, this here is a 72, and see if it'll focus. It says 72 there. And I don't know who came up with 72, but 72 is a 50 gauge, which is 50 thousandths. And then you have 63 gauge, which on an Oregon chain says 75. I don't know where they got all these numbers. It gets really confusing. We've been doing it for a little bit, so it's kind of easy, but the still numbers and everything are all, you know, foreign to us. So it's just, I don't know why they just don't make it 50 and make it 63. It'd be easy, or 58 or 43 gauge or whatever. But if you're unsure of what chain you're going to make or how many drivers that you need to make, you can always look on your bar, and right here is all the information. So this is just an Oregon Husqvarna bar. It's 24 inches long. You got you know, your 3/8. I got my dirty fingers on her. 3/8, 84. So that's 84 drivers it takes to get around that bar. And it is 63 gauge. So 63 thousandths is what your driver is. So you need a 3/8, 63 gauge chain. And there's several different sequences of chain. There's full skip, semi-skip, and full comp. And we can go over that on another video and explain how to pick a chain and all that stuff. But today I'm just going to be how to make a chain. That's how you figure out how many drivers that you need when you're basically pulling your chain off and breaking it. Okay, so Russ and I are going to get ready to break a chain. The chain I chose was a 72 EXL to do the example of. So you want to start? Yeah. And you're going to make a 72 driver, which is a 20-inch bar. So Russ will pull the chain down. He lines it up on his 3/8 pin.
So we want to be between the 72 and 73.
Okay.
Now I mark it with a Sharpie just so if I get distracted, I don't lose it. Okay. I give it a little shake and it comes right off. Pull everything out of the way. And drop it in, you open it up and clamp it tight.
And that's the one you chose to use normally.
This is what they recommended in Oregon.
Okay.
When we went down there.
And this is the one that comes with the breakers.
This comes with it. They're kind of funky to use, but they do work.
And then it has all the chain sizes in it, so where the tooth sits, or the
But these ones just work nice. Then you just set it in there and trying to get it dead center of the rivet and push. Pops right out.
Okay. So we're just going to do one chain at a time. Usually Russ would pull out, 10 or 15 and make a bunch, and then he usually spins them. But for the video, we're just going to do one at a time and kind of show you guys how it goes together.
So with the EXL or EXJ, they come with a gold and blue links to match the chain.
Okay.
So you just drop it in and make sure that
move your big grubby hands there.
Make sure that your link is down, so the notch is just like the rest of the chain.
Okay.
And then set on your link. And this is the hardest part, is just learning how to pick this thing up.
While it's on the table.
The first few times it takes a while, but I just pinch it like that. Up and over. And I drop it in, and I already know where all my settings are. And I'll go ahead and push on it a little bit. And give it a couple spins. I know I'm going to be down about 6 o'clock. 4 or 5 spins. Undo it. Slide the next one in. Same thing, right down to the same spot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go.
Okay, let me get in here.
And then nice and loose.
Nice job. So when you go to spin a chain, how do you figure out how much pressure to put and how many spins, Russ?
You gotta tighten it up and spin it, and then loosen it and check it, and keep going and until you get to that spot where the link is tight, the rivets mushroomed really nice.
Okay.
And then you just continue to go to that spot. Yep. It takes a little bit to figure it out, but once you figure it out, we've got it marked on here. So if like Gordon needs to spin a chain and I'm not around, he knows where to go. Yeah. And it gets us really close.
And what I've learned is you have to go further on a 72?
72,
which would be a 50 gauge.
is about 6 o'clock on how ours is set up.
Yep.
But if we're at 75, which is a 63 gauge, it's about 4 to 4:30.
Okay. So each chain size, it depends. You
Yep.
can't go to 6 o'clock on every single chain.
Nope.
Because then you'll get too tight.
Yep.
Now, show them when the chain gets too tight. Let's do one example. Like when it's too tight, how to possibly loosen it up, or if you can't straighten it out, what do you do?
So let's go ahead and punch out another 72.
Pulls her down. Okay.
And even numbered chains, 72, 84, they're going to drop on the same link every time. The odd numbered chains, 91, 93s, they're going to fall every other chain you make. They'll keep moving down the link. So like this chain, this is a full comp. You'll have a link and a cutter, a link and a cutter. So every other one, you're going to land on a cutter.
Okay.
So
we can go over that next of what happens when you do that. There's a lot to learn with this chain, guys. It's like one step at a time explaining this stuff, and I hope that I don't miss anything, but I'm probably going to.
And we've been doing it for almost a year now.
Yeah.
And it's taken a while to learn it.
And Russ is really efficient at it. I'm all right, but there is a lot to learn if you're starting out. You just have to take your time. Hopefully this video can help you guys out a little bit. Sets are on there.
And on your strap, there's a line.
Hold up. Let me see.
That's got to be out, facing out.
That stupid light. Is the line facing out?
Yep.
Okay.
And then no line. So the line's got to be facing up.
On this particular.
Yeah, on an EXL or EXJ, but an EX or CK, CL, CJ, they'll have just a dot, which is still faces up.
Okay, so they always give us a mark.
Yep. Okay, same thing. We'll over tighten this one a little bit.
So he goes a little bit at a time, then he goes.
And it doesn't take much. I mean, 6:30, 7 o'clock there, and it's still fine. See if I can.
Still moving good?
It's still moving, yeah.
There you go, get a little crazier.
It's starting to drag.
Okay, and that's just one way to checking it is just see if it's pliable,
Yep.
moving freely.
Which this one's fine. I mean, but if you had to, let's say it was too tight,
Okay.
you can stick it back in your anvil and come down right in the middle of it and just push on it just a little bit, just a little dot. And that usually will free it right up.
Okay.
And then you're fine. And if you don't like it, just pop it out and put another one in. They give you 30 of them a package every roll. So
the other thing I was thinking was when we first started out, we didn't know how many times to spin. And that's
right. A lot of times the more you spin, the flatter the rivet will look.
And it'll kind of pancake and get
Yeah.
elongated out.
It kind of flattens it out and pancakes it out, where 4 or 5 spins is all I usually do.
Yeah. Okay. On your die here, they have what, A and B?
A and B, and it's usually right on the very back of the die. If you can see it or not.
These cameras. Okay, I got that one.
And then it's also on your spinner here.
On your handle.
This one's an A.
Okay. So your handle needs to match your die
Right.
for a nice rivet.
And I like to put a drop of oil on each one there before I even start, just to give it a little bit of lubrication.
Okay. Want to make some more chain?
Sure.
Go to an 84.
So now 84, same thing.
So if you guys didn't have this, and we do sell these in the store, if you didn't have this or didn't want to put it on your table, you could just count the drivers, and then when you get to the one you want, you just break it.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need the sticker. You can do this on a tailgate or wherever. It's really not that big a deal. I should make you use the other die. See if you're any good with that one. Piece of cake. Do you kind of get a feel for it after a while too? Can you kind of feel where you need to be?
Definitely. And I always make sure it's nice and free on there.
Okay.
And there's no play that way.
Okay.
And that's fine.
Damn, Russ. You're making me look bad. You should see the ones I spin. Yeah, so now we're going to do a 91. And explain to them what happens when you start doing these odd numbers. Is it odd or even? Odd.
Odd, yeah. So a lot of times it'll land right on a cutter or a tooth, and there's nothing you can really do, so you got to remove the tooth. I've learned the hard way, like this tooth here, with the tooth being on top, is on 91.
Okay, so the tooth landed is where you're going to break it.
Right.
Okay.
And then this one's on 93.
Okay.
So this one I could punch. I could take it off and punch it. But that one, I want to flop the chain over and push it in from this side.
Because what Russ is saying is when you punch, you want to punch from this side of the tooth when the tooth is sitting downward.
Right.
You can only punch it that way. You can't punch this tooth.
Well, you can.
You can?
But I've done it, and I've bent my tip twice doing
Okay.
it. I've learned the hard way. So it's easier just to flip the chain over, punch it, and then flip it back.
Okay.
So
let's do, well, you want to do 91 or you want to do 93 and show them how you got to flip the chain?
yeah, let's just do a 93.
Okay.
So you've got to mark it on both sides because it's going to be on the other side, obviously. A little flip. And it's kind of a pain, but it saves tips. So there's my mark. So now the tooth is up.
Okay. Because you flop the chain
Because
the
I
other
flopped
direction.
the chain. And
Now
then
he's
it's
got
just,
the tooth down.
then it's just like any other thing.
Comes out like butter.
Yep, pops right out.
Okay.
And let's say I tried to do this one here, and you'll see what I'm saying. See how it won't lay in there square?
Yep. Because you want that. Zoom in here. Yeah, you can see how it's sitting crooked. So now flip it the other direction and let me look. I'll show them how the difference is. So that's sitting a lot flat.
Right. And sometimes you can bend your drivers. I bent a few drivers where I had to pop out the driver and replace it because it's crooked.
Yep.
So, because you got a lot of pressure with this thing. So that's just the way I've learned to do it. Saves tips and less grief.
Yeah. Well, I've even broke a couple, and it took me a little while to figure it out that I kept bending them. And then I went to put them together, and the chain was just tight.
And you fight them. Yeah,
Because
we learned.
it actually buckled the driver.
Yes.
Because I'm not sitting flat when I'm trying to punch. I was sideways like this. Took me a little bit to get it. And then when I went to put the chain together, it's really hard to see it sometimes with your eye until you start to put it
And
together.
then you go to tighten your rivet up, and all of a sudden they won't move, and they're bound up, and the drivers are actually shot. So you got to pop the driver out, put a new driver in, put it back together.
All right, we'll throw this one together. Or do you want to do one that lands on a tooth? We can spin a tooth. It's just the same thing, right?
It's the same thing. This was a 93, right?
I don't know. You're the one making the chain. I'm the one making the video. You got all our watchers all
93.
confused.
Yeah, so we would just put it back together with a regular link.
Okay. So now you're back
Back to where I was.
back to where you were. And one thing that Russ and I were discussing earlier was the master links. These are obviously for the EXL and EXJs. They're kind of gold. We think that's just color. I think all the straps are the same as far as like between the C chains and the EXL chains and Js. But the difference between a 63 and a 50 gauge is obviously, the thickness of this driver. But the driver itself, where it goes through the chain, where the actual strap and the pin goes through, is the same. They just machine. See if I can get in here. You see that line that runs right there? So that's just machined down thinner on that. But all the parts, the straps and the pins are the same on a 50 gauge and a 63. The 63 tooth is wider to accommodate the bar width, but the 50 gauge tooth is skinnier. So in theory, the 50 gauge chain would be faster.
Faster, lighter.
But as far as strength wise, in the strap area, they're the same.
Yeah, everything would be the same.
Yep.
We use the same links.
Yep.
On 63 and 50 gauge on both of them.
Yep. So if you messed up and you used, one strap on a 50 and one on a 63, it's going to be
The same.
the same. The only difference is they machine that driver down right there, and the tooth is skinnier. So when you have a skinnier tooth, your cutting kerf is going to get skinnier because your bar is skinnier. If your teeth are wider, obviously it's going to accommodate for that wider bar. So,
and we've never weighed like a chain, like a 20 inch for a 20 or 72 driver for a 20 inch bar.
correct.
We've never weighed see what the weight difference is between the two.
I need to weigh bars too, you know, like a 50 gauge versus 63, because the 63 is wider. I wonder how much real a difference there is, but I'm going to kind of zoom in on you here when you put that chain in there.
Now, that'll happen sometimes, yeah. Cameraman's in the way.
Well, that looks like me putting a chain together now. This is real life chain making. And you always have, you know, the pin this direction.
Correct.
Yep. Beauty. Is there anything else you want to go over, Russ? Basics of making chain?
No, I think cover it. I mean, you'll learn.
Yeah.
As you're making it, you'll learn all the little different tricks. We're still learning.
The bigger the chain is, the easier it is to make, right?
Seems like it.
Yeah. When you go into the smaller change, the little 3/8 low pro and 325, it gets really tough to break the chain. The drivers are obviously smaller. They
smaller.
Bend.
They're a little finickier when you're spinning them.
Yep.
But we're learning them. We're getting better at it.
Yep. But the 3/8, it's pretty basic between a 50 gauge and a 63 or a 58. You and I don't spin any 58s. We don't carry it. But I imagine it's exactly the same. And I believe the driver is machined for the 58 also.
Yeah, it would be the same way.
It'd be the same way. So they just took more off of it for the 50 gauge, and then everything is originated from the 63. So, but anyway, I got all the parts that Russ and I use. So the first thing is we have this spinner, and this is the part number for our spinner that we use on our table. So that's our serial number for the punch if you want to order that. And we had the heavy duty ones, and these are the other ones. I got the part numbers for those. These are more than sufficient to make chain out of. We just chose the bigger ones because we're doing it every day. But this here is a bar nose rivet that can punch out bar nose rivets on your bar. So if you want to change bar tips, this punch right here is heavy duty enough to do it. You don't want to use the little guy that comes with it because it'll just break that tip right off. So this little guy here took us a little bit to find, but that's the part number for it. If you're ever wanting to change your own bar tip. This is the, what'd you call this thing?
Anvil.
The anvil that Russ uses. This is Oregon. I don't know why they're making it in China, but whatever. And this one here, that's part number for that. And these are the parts that it comes with. It comes with 2 different punches and the anvil that they offer right here. And this thing works good. Russ is just spoiled. He's just... Here's the spinner. Comes with 2 handles and the A and the B. There's the part number for that.
Yeah. Here's the B. How they do it on the...
Oh, it's on the handle there?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's A.
Yep. And what do you use the most of? Do you use A mostly?
A, yeah.
And that's covers 3/8 all the way
404.
to 404.
The smaller, the 20 LGX, 22, they use the B.
Okay.
And it's all on your... It tells you everything right on your scale.
Go over that with me for a minute.
I mean, like right here, your take-up handle for your different sizes. Use B anvil and take-up handle for quarter, 325, 90, 91 series. There's everything is on this scale. It's pretty nice.
So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to break all this down, what the cost is of a 100-foot roll, and then I'm going to break it down by making each chain and what your savings is and how much you'll save by making chain out of a roll. So basically this roll right here, 100 foot, and it has 1,640 drivers in 100 foot on a 3/8 chain. And I broke it all down here. I got everything broken down. Excuse my math and all this crap, but so you got a 72 EXL was the chain Russ and I were making. That chain cost $395, and that is free shipping from us. And you can get these rolls anywhere online or whatever. Our price is pretty good. It includes the free shipping, which is nice. So if you were to buy that roll and you wanted to save some money and you own an arborist company or whatever, And I broke it all down here for you, what it would cost. So if you took a 72 driver, which would make a 20-inch bar, and you made 100 foot of 20-inch bars, you would come up with 22.7 chains is what that roll right there would make. So your retail loop cost would be $22.95, and if you did it yourself, it would be $17.61 for a savings of $5.34 each chain. And then by the time you got done making all your rolls or all your loops that you could, you would basically save yourself $121.21. And then I kind of broke it down. The 84 driver, 24-inch bar, you get 19.5 chains out of that roll. $26.95 is my price on that loop. You could make it for 21 or 20.51 and so forth. So you got the savings of each. Here's a 91. You get 18 chains out of a 91. And a 91 driver would be a 28-inch bar for a still. And a 93 would be Husqvarna 28. So they're really close. $28.22. Your savings is $6.74. Save that. 32, same thing. 15.6 chains out of that roll. 33 is your price. 25, you save yourself $129. So there is some savings in it. I mean, if you did like 2 full rolls yourself and made whatever, you're saving about $120 constantly across the board. And if you did 2 full rolls at $240, it would pay for basically all your tools. And then you'd be home free after that, and everything after that is just savings. So just something I wanted to touch base on, because I don't never see anybody break it down, but hopefully my math is all correct. But that's what I came up with, and kind of gives you guys an idea of how many chains you can get out of that 100-foot roll and all that. So this is just on 3/8, 325, 404, all that's going to be different price, of course, but these are the prices that I have, and that's broken down if you did it yourself. So hopefully this video helps a little bit. It's kind of boring because it's just talking about a bunch of chain, but if you guys want to see other stuff, write in the comments what you'd like to see. I got another video on chain that I want to do. I want to do some hand filing, some square grinding, and I'm trying to get Randy from Oregon to meet up with me and kind of go over how to pick a chain I think would be cool for what saw you're using, what wood, what Oregon recommends. So I'll be trying to get a hold of him so I can meet up with him and do a video. So hope that helps you guys out, and have a good day.